Good morning, this is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching at 7:57 a.m. on the 15th of June, Thursday, first day of quad witching, which rolls into Friday. Always an interesting day. Important disclaimer and reminder for all traders and investors. This webinar is for educational purposes only and not a recommendation to buy or sell any particular financial instrument. Equities, futures, options, and currency trading have large potential rewards, but also large potential risks. You must be aware of the risks and be willing to accept them in order to invest in the futures and options markets. Absolutely do not trade with money you can't afford to lose. The website is neither a solicitation nor an offer to buy or sell equities, futures, options. No representation is being made that any account will or is likely to achieve the profits or losses similar to those discussed in this channel. Past performance of any trading system or methodology is not necessarily indicative of future results. Absolutely consult your registered financial advisor and your risk trading plan before ever investing or trading any financial instrument. Okay, got the fun part over with. So we're obviously gapping down, and we've obviously been in a trend down scenario overnight out of London, right? So first let's get Globex high and low in. Globex low at 24.1650, which was pretty close to just fine. I would expect that to get penetrated. And then Globex high came in all the way up there. We're at 34.50, which was also logical. Okay, so first let's just look at the overnight markets, and on a bigger chart, then we'll go and look at where the key locations are, which is why I wanted to start early to begin with, and we'll work our way from there. So chart analysis. Before I do that, just econ that might pop up through the course of the day. The biggest issue, hands down, is quad witching plus whatever the remnants are of the Fed trade, right? So here's Forex Factory, and we can see. So all day there's some kind of British pound deal going on. I don't think that will affect us. 9:15 capacity and utilization and industrial production numbers come out. Then at 9 a.m. NAHB housing market index. None of that's important. And there's no, as far as I can tell, any Fed speakers on the docket. Most of the important data has already hit the market, right? So if you go to ES first, and we look at how the market's been trading overnight, just from a bigger perspective. First of all, the range is significant, right? We're going from 35 all the way down to 16, a 20-point rotation, and then we get the counter rotation off of that 15-point rotation lower. So a couple of things. The first thing we want to be cognizant of is the 50-60 retrace on the overnight, right? If we can't achieve that, and we may not be able to today, but if we can't achieve that, obviously you have to be thinking trend day down. You have a clear resistance point overnight right here at this 28. We try to hold it right into London Open, right? We punched right through right after the London Open. That's clearly that 26.28, which if you go back to the chart, right, lands us right here. So I'm going to add a note to Wednesday's low, which is it was overnight London resistance, right, and support. Okay. Jumping back to this chart. I've got Globex low, right? It's 24.16.15. So next, right, we clearly have a downtrend line, right? And then we want some perspective. Where were we last time we were in this area, right? That's the other thing that we would want to know in terms of getting an idea of where the potential bounces are before we move over to the different charts that may or may not show us that, right? So that's easy enough to figure out as well. So we can just punch in, go look at the 60-minute chart, and get some perspective. So hourly, this is back on the 18th, right? So this is our true, very important areas, right? So 2432, 2400 to 2403, right? And then our last swing low, which you can see we just punched in and punched out, never retested that low. And that's that 2412.50 area, right? And what we've done this morning is we've come in, we've tested to 2416.50, right? But we have not, what we have not done is we have not penetrated below it yet. So they're obviously trying to hold it as a double bottom. My guess is it gives at some point, but again, the market has consistently, if it's done anything consistently, it's bounced consistently, right? ES has, right? So you can see we're opening right on support. They're trying to push it up a little bit pre-market, but again, this is pretty heavy overnight, right? And this is really a continuation of the punch lower after the Fed. And if this gives way, right, so you can see this really, this little area on hourly, we did not close below that 18 and a quarter area. And if we do, right, you can see that we came down to right to where we were poorly auctioned. We have support right below that at 2409, right, 2400. All of this becomes important. If you look back to the left and crunch this up a little bit more, you can see we're trapped back into the range below the old range. So I'd write this down so you know it, depending on how the day plays out, because it's quad witching, so anything can happen. This is the old range, 2414. The bottom of that range was roughly 2405 to the top of the prior resistance, right, which was 2401 to 2398, right? And then what if we get back in below 2398, the prior balance area for that had three critical areas, 2387 and 2375, right? So it's important that you understand what structure we're in, and as we're falling into new slots, those old players will come back to make trading decisions in that process, right? So now let's go take a look at NQ and what's going on there and see if there's really, truly anything that may have changed or may have not have changed. So here, let's hold on to this chart so we can reference it later. Let's pull up a new NQ chart. So you can see that they're short squeezing it up this morning, but, right, if you go to a bigger picture, it's just not a pretty picture, right? So first obvious test is that 56.86 to 56.91, right? Which we are knocking on its door as we speak, right? That's clearly a resistance area in principle, and if we don't get back above it, again, this was London Open, right? And that London Open is going to become very important. So if we impulse move above, that'll become support for a push higher. It's clearly at this point become a key resistance location, and I may be looking to short on a push into this 86.91 area if and when we can generate said push, and I don't know that we can. So that's kind of the bigger picture when we go really big picture on NQ, right? here was our swing low. You can see they're trying to hold that swing low, right? And my guess is, because it's weaker and we're trending down, my guess is that 61 to 60, 56.43 at some point will at least give way to a shake and bake push lower, right? I don't know that for an actual fact, but it's just a guess that we will try to push that thing lower. You're going to need at least 10-point stops, is my guess, to make NQ work for you today. Otherwise, you're going to be subjected to getting a lot of small stop outs, and you may need 20 points. I'd watch the size of the 5-minute bars, that they don't expand to something like this over here. Just to give you an idea of what's possible in a bar, right? This bar right here, from high to low, was 71 to 19. One 1 hour bar, right? If we go push that lower on that day to 5-minute bars, again, some of the bars size-wise, 57.50 to 57.27, right? 25 points. So if you do the math on that times $20, it comes out to, it's quite a bit of money. That's all I can say. Is it can get painfully ugly. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind as you're making your trading decisions today, that it's very possibly going to be a very painful day. So the next piece I want to add as we're pushing down, so that's all I have to add there. Let me fix up the 5-minute chart real quick here. So I just want to get London again. Support resistance on London was I should have to say 56.94 to 56. This is the backside test. It's really this 56.85 to 56.94 is support resistance on NQ. You really wouldn't want it over 94. You'd be trapped back into yesterday's low, right? So there's a backside test. Let's check that. I take it back. Here we go. It's all one piece. Yesterday's low, which we're testing right now, right? So yesterday's low, trap back in and push if that occurs, with way too many people short. If we get back in and hold above yesterday's low, right? On the other hand, failure to hold above yesterday's low, and down we go. Okay, so important trade locations, right? So the we have that marked off. So 56, let's just call it 56.85 to 56.94. Here we'll just do it like this, 56 and then 56.86. Okay, so that's yesterday's low. Let's mark it off so we can monitor it. So you can see right when we're trapping back in, see how we're pushing up against 86.75. You'll see whether the shorts get squeezed on that or not going into the open. We probably will have a negative 1,000 tickets, almost impossible not to imagine that, and it's also not difficult to imagine that ES will be stronger than NQ again. So this is my critical area. Globex low, I'll mark it off. We've already bounced from 56.58, so it's a 30-point bounce already on NQ. $75. Okay. A little bit slow. Okay, so let's move over now to the, again, I'm just trying to do this calmly and focused fashion. I'm looking, so I want to go over what I'm looking for, right? Obviously out of the gate, potential open drive lower, right? Obviously I'd be very concerned about getting clipped in an open drive lower. I already know that there's 30-point ranges in NQ, and I already know that there's 20-point ranges in ES. So 10-point ranges will definitely be key to 10-point ranges will definitely be key to looking for trade location along with tick divergence on the 5-minute chart, right? The easiest decision to make when you know that there's going to be OTF, so what's happening is everything's expiring all at once, and it can cause dramatic moves in both directions, right? Not small moves, dramatic moves in both directions. So what does that mean for you as a trader, right? So the first thing you have to decide is review your stop loss principles, right? 2 4-point stops back to back for me generally does it, right? I don't want to be involved in trying to guesstimate whether I am right or I am wrong and keep burying my money, right? The next decision you have to make is quite simple. You all saw what happened on futures rollover, right? We have the same potential for having a very thin dome and having exaggerated moves. When the dome gets thin, right, that means that we can easily bust through. So what are you looking for? Well, if you see like 15, 10, 20 on the dome, right, so like I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so right now it's all right, but you'll see them flash in with 85, 62, and you start to see the bid and ask get really thin, which inevitably it looks like it will be, right? It looks like that's kind of a foregone conclusion that they're going to make that fairly ugly, right? So if you know that going into the deal, right, I want to repeat that. If you know that going into the deal, either adjust size, wait till you get through the first hour so that you don't get run over, right? And then what are we looking for specifically outside of key support resistance areas? I'm looking for pushes up where we get a strong tick push up, but we can't break the last swing high, right? So we go over here. And I look and I go, okay, we're pushing down. Let's say it's here and this is the last swing high. And then we get a strong tick push up into this area, and they can't clear this last area, so we'll draw it out again. You got to imagine, strong tick, push up, right? And on that strong tick, we can't break over the last swing high, right? Assuming there's a rotation there, I'm going to look to short that push up in the idea of I'm going to be able to attempt to grab a continuation in the direction of the overall trade, right? Do I know that that'll work for a fact? No, no idea whatsoever. I'll maintain my nice, Damien. Thank you for sending that to me. I'll be able to send my I'll be able to set my stop where I want my stop, a point or two above this swing, right? So I'm going to calculate, very important, right? If you calculate that the point or two above this swing is a 7-point stop, my suggestion would be you don't try to take it with a 2-point stop because you're just asking to get stopped, right? There's nothing else, there's nothing more special about that. You're going to take the trade, and they're going to come in and they're going to be running you, right? So on a day like today, you got to remember, and I have it written down, the stop I want, the stop the market demands, right, and the stop I can afford, and you have to find a balance in between that, right? So now let's go over to now that we have that covered, that's the most important part of the day. There's nothing more important than that, right? You can, on days like today, we will generally get opportunities throughout the course of the day. I'm not going to look to catch a falling knife in the first 30 minutes or guess where it's going to reverse or not reverse. If they open drive it higher, I'll respect that. If they drive it lower, I'll respect that. But what I don't want to do is step in against options activity and futures activity I can't control, right? So the futures go out today and tomorrow. The options go out. I forget what else is in quad witching, but everything expires. Okay, so let's go through and grab the profile charts. And let's look at ES on a 24-hour basis and on an RTH basis. First, you should be taking notes on this, so if I forget it, you've got it, right? So yesterday's value area low, roughly, I'd count it here, but this is roughly 24.32 value area low, value area high 24.3950, and the POC point of control is between 35 and 37. Obviously, that's a key location. That's a key location for me. If we can get up into that area, I expect it to slow down in here. Okay. We have this area right here, this 22 to 21. You'll notice we just pushed up into that 22 and 21, right? And that's where we're rejecting out of literally right now, is out of that 22, 21 area. Has to be gotten above. You'll see I left that as a white zone overnight. It held the first time in, and now it's punching. Now it's punching below that, going into the open, which is of course not a shock or a surprise in any way, shape, or form. That we would be getting some sell pressure going towards the open. So the question is, what's below, right? And I want to do something here real quick. Analysis techniques, format. Let's give this. I don't know if it'll do it, but we'll ask for it. Let's try 100 days back. It may be limited to 60 days on TradeStation, but when we look below 24.22, right? So this already got tested. Okay, so there's still. That's ES.D. I want ES. There we go. That's 24-hour. And you'll see we just punched it. Excuse me, I stand corrected. So what we're punching in backside testing, so remember this wasn't here. This is that old 24.22. Same thing on the RTH. 21 to 22 area that we just tried to punch in, and we're rejecting out of that. We've got to get above that. So that's your first hurdle. If we get above that, that's the first sign that we may be trapping above and going to push back into either back into these. So see, there's a low volume node right there. There's another one right here. So this is a potential resistance area on these single prints, and then this fatter area right in here. Both of them are potential strong resistance areas. Okay. Continuing with the thought process below, right? So obviously this 24.16.15 was the prior support. We've held it 2 times, right? You see all these single prints here. What I'm aiming for is this 24.11, 24.09 area, right? And then right below it at 24.05 to 24.03, which on the ES.D or the RTH chart is a bigger point of control at that point, right? So I want to go through that again, and then I want to go to levels lower if we really melt, right? This is a big area, okay? I'm looking for an excuse to take a trade. So below 05 comes 96.95, 97.95, right? But you got to remember in here, this is a double distribution, and it could push all the way down into 93. Okay, so I want to say that again so you can put it in your notes. Below 2400, you have to be able to willing to accept. It's probably going to respond from 96.95, but it might want to come down and retest this lower area right here. And then finally we have at 87 to 88. That's the next location. Now that puts us down from yesterday's close roughly. So if we get to 2400, that puts us down 34. This puts us down 44. And this puts us down almost 50 on the day. Possible. We haven't had that in a long time. Again, I'm just trying to prep for a worst case scenario, right? That's what my entire objective is here, and getting my pre-market preparation going. Not trying to guess what the market's going to do. I just want to be prepared for where it's at. So on the downside, I'm looking for 5-minute tick divergence. Remember, on trend day down, 5-minute tick divergence completely behind you, right? So this is going back to old school, wide volatility, key areas, right? Patience will pay more than less, right? Then the other part about that is, as we're pushing down, right? Remember this rule. I hate that color. Okay, so we're pushing down. I'm looking for the last swing high to get broken with an impulse move, 50-60 back. I'd like to see tick divergence or tick push into that 50-60. Then I'm looking for a swing. Remember, you may have to audible if the range is really, really wide. You may have to audible on this, right, to cover the fact that, to cover the idea that it could get very, very sloppy in here, okay? That's what you're potentially having to audible for, is the fact that it could push and that this could equal 10 or 15 points, right? In which case we're looking for tick divergence or a way to modify that, because obviously I don't think anyone in the room is going to take a 15-point stop even on one contract. I know I'm not, right? So I'm going to have to modify that and figure out if I can find another way into that trade if I can't tolerate the stop between the swing low here and there. Again, I want to reiterate, if the stops get too big, right, the market will come in. You don't have to continue to beat the daylights out of yourself in an attempt to make a trade work, okay? You just don't. This day will pass and so will tomorrow, okay? And where we make money is where it's moderately volatile, right? So we can take risk without being overly concerned. But when it's wildly volatile, right, we have to pull back size and allow the market to stretch the key area. So I want to say it one more time on the upside. Tick divergence in the key locations. We have those marked off on this chart. Notice between 2405 and 2396, these are starting to spread out about 10 points, right? And that's going to play right into our 10-point factor where we're getting these key locations, right? So let it stretch. There's no reason to take a 4-point rotation today unless you have some kind of very, very special setup that you're very comfortable taking. And the less you click today, right, the odds are the better off you will be. Okay, I want to say that again. The less you click, odds are the better off you'll be. And you'll see right here we're coming right into that 21-22, and they just can't bang behind it. The next key is if we break Globex low on NQ and it starts one of these 100-point intraday fall downs. We're already down 52. NQ was down 200 last time was the panic on Friday, right? So understand that if we're down 100, right, it can go another 100 points, okay? Really, really important to keep that in mind. And you don't have a sure thing, right? 100 points on NQ is $2,000. Okay, $20 a point, 100 points, 2K. So today's not the day to decide, hey, I'm just going to try to trade NQ with a mega tight stop because I think I can do it. I think that's totally the wrong approach. So lastly, I want to jump over to NQ just before we open. And ES.D lines up much the same. The points of control are in similar areas, a little bit more spread out here. Okay, you can see this area has pretty much been covered. Right, it's on the 24-hour that there's an HVN that hasn't been tested here, and then this is at 2405, 3/4 down to 2403. And remember, when the market's overly volatile, what it tends to do is overshoot. Right, I want to say that again. It tends to overshoot its locations, not undershoot. So don't be surprised if we push through a little bit, right, and then snap back. And then you can see key locations in each of these areas. I'm just going to dot them as we move along, and it'll line up right with what we have. So the HVN on the RTH is 2497.95. Okay, this hasn't been tested. This was partially tested, 89. Again, the 24 hours is a little bit behind it. And then this is a key area all the way down at 79.76. And then finally, if it really melts, I don't expect it, but you have an open gap. You have an open gap at each of these locations too, is important to note. This open gap almost got filled at 23.99. I'm sure 2400 is a round number psychologically. Someone will try to bounce it there, right? Let's jump over to NQ really quick. So this is where we're trading right now, 56.80. Right, it's the backside of this. It's the backside of this value area low from this date, right? That's the low, 56.43. Note that Globex low did not penetrate the low, which is probably why some people are getting squeezed early this morning as they tried for a double bottom, right? If this gives way We have an HVN right underneath 56.43 down to 56.34. Okay, and then we have a ton of single prints that might want to get auctioned down there at 56.04, right? From 57.32, 56.32 puts this 100 down, and then if we go and see what's at 55.32, we get top of an open window, an open gap, but and this is the key HVN in that area. It hasn't been tested. You see them running right in front of it at 55.75 last time, right? So my suggestion is you just kind of let it go to start with, and let's see where they're at when they actually finally tick the opening bell. Does anyone have any questions, right? My goal is to lay back and let the market come to me, and I don't want to get involved in the fray. Most of these guys have to execute their futures and options trades in the first half hour to hour. It should settle down after that, and we should get some good trades. Side note, I have to take my daughters to a doctor's appointment today. I don't have any way out of it. My wife's going to do as much as she can, but we've been waiting for this appointment for 6 months, and I just can't move it. That's all there is to it. So that's unfortunate, but that's how it is. So at any rate, does anyone have any questions for me before we open? We should have our trade plan locked, right? Tick divergence, 10-point extensions, into key locations. I have my I have my NQES. I'm not going to even bother with CL today. I'm not going to bother with the bond today. Minimize this. Just relaxed focus. And I'm ready to go as soon as this bad boy opens to do nothing, right? I'm just going to let it relax and let it come to us, and then we will take the trades as they set up for us appropriately, right? We don't have to do anything early. We don't have to do anything late. I imagine people are going to panic pretty quickly on this NQ out of the gate, and then we'll see what they manage to do, if anything, right? So there's the open. Let's see what kind of joy they bring to the market this morning. So let me get tick inserted there. Oh, wrong one. Format symbol tick, remove. Does anyone have anything that I missed that was critical down here? Bill? Anybody? Attempting to push back to Wednesday's low on NQ right out of the gate. Let's get tick in. Again, I have no idea which way it's going to go. Again, really. Okay, let's try this one more time. ES, insert, symbol, tick, plot. Okay, there we go. They're trying very, very hard to push. Pushing right into that white zone. Again, if you're very, very aggressive and you can handle the stop, right? This is a key resistance area. This is Monday's naked volume point of control. That 24.2275 is the ideal spot. You're running into quad witching. Anything can happen. Normally that would get respected very, very quickly. Okay? So NQ's already whipped up and down 15 points. people who are aggressive on the short there. So right here at this 22.75, if you're going to be aggressive, this is the point to be aggressive, right? That's the point where it's likely to get a challenge, okay? Again, the problem is you have no idea how hard they'll run that. You really just don't want to see it close behind. Let me correct that. Behind 23, 24, 23, 26, right? That's where you don't want to see it close behind. So, we're only down 13 points so far, which is all right. Not as bad a melt as you would think, considering the trend day down we've had overnight. Again, that 22.75 is behaving just like it should. Attempt to push in, see if they can get the juice to push over. Nope, not yet. See how it just stops there? It doesn't mean it'll hold it perfectly, but that's how it's supposed to work. Tick is negative 1,000. Okay, that's a big, big, big negative tick. Again, we've ticked just over that NVPOC. Perfect. Perfect. Perfect trade. Tick pushing up without price pushing up, by the way, is worth noting. So that pause that you just saw there, guys, let me stop this.